Chapter 121, title at the end. Alaric left the Baron's study after getting his approval. Following behind him were Henry and Warwick, who were persuading him to let them join the reinforcement team. "My lord, please allow me to go with you. Please take me with you, my lord. I have to be there to lead those stubborn warriors." Alaric already planned to bring them, so he agreed with a nod. "Of course. Besides you two, I will also bring Galliner, Arthur, and Fredrin." The orc invasion was a major event that had almost destroyed Vale in his past life. He wasn't certain if the number of orcs heading to Alverden was on the same scale as it was in his past life, so he wanted to bring as many elite knights as possible. The two were stunned upon hearing his words. "Wouldn't it be too much to bring 5 elite knights, my lord?" Warwick remarked with a baffled look. Orcs might be powerful, but they were reckless and relied too much on their brute strength, so with the right tactics, an army of warriors could take them down. "No." Alaric shook his head. "Don't you find it strange? Why would Alverden ask for reinforcements? Although they don't have a proper army, they can still defeat a small tribe of orcs on their own." Warwick was the first one to realize what he was trying to say, and a look of realization dawned on him. "You mean the number of orcs is too high for them to handle on their own?" Alaric stopped in his tracks and muttered in a grave tone. "If my guess is right, there could be hundreds if not thousands of orcs outside of Alverden." "What?" Henry and Warwick were shocked upon hearing this. They couldn't believe his words. In a single orc tribe, there could be over 20 to 50 orcs, but their number never exceeded 100. There was no such precedent, so they thought that it was impossible. However, when they saw Alaric's unusually grim face, they felt that it might be true, and the thought of it made them tremble. A small tribe of orcs could decimate a village, and a strong orc tribe could even ruin a town. Now, what would happen if there were hundreds of orcs? It would be a disaster. "Shouldn't we report this to the Baron?" Warwick hesitantly spoke. "No. This is just my speculation, so we don't need to alert the Baron. We would only end up wasting his time if I'm wrong." Alaric shook his head. Truthfully, he was already 100% sure that there were 1,000 orcs, and the reason why he didn't want to tell this to the Patriarch was because of the new mission that appeared in front of him. _____. Mission: defeat the orcs. Mission difficulty: hard. An army of more than 1,000 orcs are heading towards Alverden. Defeat them and prevent the destruction of the town without the help of a transcendent knight. Rewards: random trait upgrade card X1, 100 stat points, 1,000 battle points, SSS-Rank trait card X1. Penalty for failure: 2,000 battle points, 200 EXP. _____. It was his first hard mission. All the missions he had received were mostly easy and normal. Although this mission carried serious risks, he didn't want to miss this rare opportunity. Upon stepping out of the mansion, they saw that the warriors of the household had already gathered. They formed neat rows and columns, displaying their strict order and discipline. The warriors immediately straightened their backs when they saw the 3 coming out of the mansion. Alaric scanned the over 200 warriors with a stern gaze before he turned his head to Warwick and Henry. "How many of them can we bring to Alverden?" he asked. "A third of these warriors are still trainees, so we can't bring them with us. We need to leave about 30 veterans to defend North Pine Town, so that leaves us with slightly over 100 warriors." Warwick replied after some thought. Because of Alaric's aggressive expansion of their military, the household's forces had almost doubled. 100 warriors? That should be enough. Alaric nodded. He then looked at the warriors and said in a booming voice. "Warriors of House Silversword, an army of orcs are currently headed to Alverden. It's only a small town, so they don't have enough manpower to defend against a large-scale orc attack. They are calling for help, and if we don't respond to their calls, the town might be destroyed by those monsters. If those orcs are to be left alone, they might attack our town next. We must stop them before it comes to that." Alaric paused and observed everyone's reaction. The warriors were agitated by his words. Seeing that he had achieved his desired effect, he continued. I will bring half of you to provide reinforcements to Alverden. If you don't wish to participate, please raise your hand. He scanned the crowd, but everyone remained unmoved. No one raised their hand. Even the trainees wished to partake in the mission. Good. I will now select the people who will participate in this mission. If your name is called, please go to that side and wait for further instructions. In the next moment, Alaric carefully selected the warriors that they would bring. He couldn't bring all the knights since North Pine Town also needed protection. After almost 30 minutes, he had finally selected over 100 warriors. To the people who aren't chosen, please stay here and ensure the safety of the town while we're gone. Yes, my lord. To those who are chosen, I will give you half an hour to bid farewell to your families. Yes, my lord. While everyone was making preparations, Alaric headed to the household treasury hidden within the main mansion. He planned to bring a special item with him for this trip. He already had the rare steel sword, but he felt that it was necessary to have an extra layer of defense for this mission. Chapter 122, The Situation in Alverden. On the afternoon of the first day of February, huge clusters of dark clouds loomed over the skies of Alverden. At this moment, no one could be seen on the town streets. It was as if the whole place had been abandoned. However, there was a reason for this lack of activity. At the western gate of Alverden, the town guards gathered atop the walls, looking in the distance with grave faces. Sir Ronan, our scouts have reported that the orcs will be here before nightfall. A warrior reported to the knight dressed in leather armor with steel breastplates and shoulder guards. Hearing this, Ronan frowned. What about our call for reinforcements? He asked while trying to maintain his composure. The messenger sighed and shook his head as he replied. There's still no news from them, sir. Some warriors who were nearby fell into despair when they heard this. With more than 1,000 orc warriors approaching them, all hope was shattered. Ronan had already expected this, but he was still disappointed by the inaction of the surrounding towns and cities. Suddenly, someone's face came into his mind. Wait. Ronan grabbed the leaving messenger and asked with an agitated look. Did you send someone to North Pine Town? The messenger was startled, but he still responded with a nod. Why yes, sir, but even if they send us reinforcements, it might take them 2 days or more to get here since the road is covered in thick snow. You're right. Ronan exhaled a heavy breath. Even if Lord Alaric brings the warriors of House Silversword, our chances of repelling the orc army are still slim. His mood worsened as he thought of this. Sir, why don't we leave the town? We still have time to escape. We can bring the townspeople with us. One of the young warriors suggested with an anxious look, his voice trembling. Before Ronan could respond, one of the older warriors lashed out. Are you out of your mind? You actually want to leave the town in this kind of weather? Do you know how many people will die from the cold? Some warriors immediately held back the older warrior, preventing him from beating up the younger guy. The atmosphere became more tense as the warriors argued over what to do. Silence. Ronan shouted as he glared at the ones causing a ruckus. Everyone immediately quieted down upon sensing the anger in his voice. He scanned the faces of his comrades and uttered. I know that the situation is bleak, but we must stay here and protect the town. The outcome of this battle will determine the fate of Alverden. We must not yield for the sake of our families. His words ignited the morale of the warriors. That's right. Since when did we yield? We are the warriors of Alverden. Who cares about 1,000 orcs? I can fight 10 of them on my own. Someone boasted shamelessly. What the hell are you saying? Do you think you're a hero or something? Another one laughed sarcastically. Ha ha ha. The mood lightened a bit, but everyone knew that this was only temporary. Ronan shifted his gaze to the distant woods as he prayed. Aru, please give us your protection. Sir. Good news. An excited voice drifted into everyone's ears. They all turned their gazes at the man who was coming towards the western gates on a horse. This guy was one of the messengers sent to request for reinforcements. His arrival filled everyone with hope. Ronan immediately jumped down from the wall. Seeing this, the messenger pulled the reins and climbed down his horse. He then rushed to Ronan's side and reported. "Sir, House Paxley has sent 50 warriors including an elite knight. They are now heading here as we speak." "What? Is this true?" Ronan was pleasantly surprised. 50 warriors wasn't much, but an elite knight was another matter. They were fearsome warriors who could fight tens of men simultaneously on their own. "Yes, sir. This is true," the messenger confirmed with a nod. "Great. That's great." Ronan couldn't conceal his joy. The warriors were also excited to hear the news and some of them even cheered. The 50 warriors would alleviate a great deal of burden for them, so everyone was happy. 20 minutes later, the galloping sounds of horses echoed with the arrival of House Paxley's warriors. Leading them was a stern-faced middle-aged man with neatly combed hair. With just one look, Ronan could tell that this was the elite knight. In the next moment, the middle-aged elite knight raised his hand, signaling his men to stop. He then jumped down from his horse and scanned the town guards as if he were looking for someone. "Who is the captain here?" he asked, his voice brimming with authority. Ronan took a deep breath and stepped forward as he spoke. "It's me. I'm Ronan, the captain of Alverton's town guards. May I know your name, sir?" The middle-aged elite knight glanced at Ronan and nodded to him. "I'm Jared Paxley, the garrison captain of Rivad's main gate." Ronan was startled when he heard the man's name. He hurriedly lowered his head and apologized. "I apologize for my discourtesy, my lord." "It's all right." Jared waved his hand. "What is the situation?" "I heard from the messenger you sent that a large number of orcs are coming. Can you elaborate on this for me?" The elite knight inquired with a serious look. "They were sent here by Baron Nathan under the suggestion of the household's heir, Theo Paxley. According to the latter's reasoning, they could wash away the shame caused by Liam's crime through this event. The Baron was convinced by his oldest son's suggestion, so he sent Jared to lead 50 warriors to help Alverton avert its crisis." "My lord, you came all the way here to help us, so I will be honest with you. Truthfully, we haven't ascertained the number of orcs, but based on our estimates, there are more than 1,000 of them." "What?" Chapter 123, Orc Army Arrives. Jared was stunned. "Did you just say, 1,000? Ronan nodded with a grave look. "Yes, my lord. With the speed of their march, they will be here before nightfall." Jared's expression darkened. He agreed to come here because of the rewards promised by Baron Nathan. Who would have thought that things were actually so dire? "I shouldn't have agreed to come here," he thought bitterly in his heart. Unfortunately for him, it was already too late to retreat. If he left Alverton now, he would definitely be punished by the Baron and he would also be labeled as a coward. "What preparations have you made?" Jared asked while feigning calmness. "We dug some trenches yesterday. It's not noticeable since the snow has covered the holes we dug. It should slow them." Ronan told him about the preparations they made for this defensive battle. Jared frowned. "It looks like this will be a tough battle." He sighed in his heart. While he was inwardly regretting his decision, Ronan's voice resonated in his ears. "Do you have any instructions, my lord?" "I will arrange it immediately." The elite knight shook his head. "Not for now. Be on standby and wait for my commands." "Yes, my lord." Soon, a few hours passed and the sky turned even darker. "They are here. The orcs are coming." A scout who was sent out to observe the orc army shouted as he headed toward the western gate on his horse. His words was like a bomb that awakened the warriors. Everyone immediately gathered atop the walls, looking over in the distance with solemn faces. At this moment, Jared narrowed his eyes. With his enhanced vision, he saw a large number of shadows within the woods. "Archers. Be ready." Enemies are coming, he shouted while keeping an eye on the woods. The archers tightened their grip upon hearing his commands. They didn't have his powerful vision, so they still couldn't see the approaching orcs. It was then that a loud horn resounded from the forest. The warriors were startled by this abrupt noise, and some even unconsciously grabbed their weapons. Roar! 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 In the next moment, the orc warriors finally came into view. Their large statures and fearsome roars intimidated the town guards. Even the seasoned warriors under Jared Paxley were alarmed. Archers! Knock your arrows! Jared shouted at the panicked warriors. The archers immediately placed an arrow into their bowstring, ready to aim at his signal. Some men took some time to knock their arrows because of the intense shaking of their arms caused by their nervousness. No one laughed at them since they all felt the same. Aim! Jared shouted once more as the orc army approached. The archers lifted their bows while pulling the bowstring to the limits. When the orc army crossed the archers' range, Jared shouted, "Release your arrows. Continue shooting your arrows. Cavalry, prepare to charge with me. Don't let them enter the town." Jared jumped down the wall and climbed on his horse. The arrows rained down from the sky, hitting some unlucky orc warriors. Sue! 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 A few orcs fell and died after being shot in the head, but most of them survived the first wave of arrows. Roar! 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 The orc warriors roared furious at the death of their brethren. They charged recklessly, fearless of the approaching arrows. Sue! 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 More orcs fell under the heavy barrage of arrows, but they didn't retreat. The death of their comrades only made them even more enraged. Fueled by anger, the orc warriors sped up their charge. Meanwhile, inside the town, Jared pulled his sword and shouted, "Open the gates." As soon as he gave the command, the warriors opened the gates, while the cavalrymen pulled their weapons. Jared took a deep breath. "Please guide me, Aru." In that instant, his eyes flashed with ferocity as he pointed his sword forward. Charge! He squeezed his legs, urging his horse to move forward. The cavalrymen immediately followed him, roaring at the top of their lungs to shake off their fears. The archers stopped firing their arrows the moment the cavalrymen stepped out of the town. Clang! 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 The fearsome clash between both sides finally erupted. The momentum of the cavalrymen crushed the scattered orc warriors, killing dozens in the blink of an eye. However, their speed slowed down as more orc warriors appeared. To prevent his soldiers from being surrounded, Jared employed a hit-and-run tactic. More orc warriors died under their hands, but some cavalrymen also fell. "It's not looking good for us. There are too many of them." Jared's expression abruptly changed upon seeing the unfortunate ending of some cavalrymen. "Don't slow down. Keep up with me," he shouted at the faltering warriors. "Yes, my lord." Suddenly, a loud boom echoed from behind them. Boom! Jared turned his head and saw a large orc about twice the size of a normal orc warrior. Its left chest was covered in strange black tattoos and it had horns on either side of its head. An orc general. Jared's eyes widened at the sight of this towering monster. It was a fatal grade monster nearing the realms of the disaster grade. Its power was comparable to that of elite knights, making it one of the most fearsome beasts among the orcs. The orc general brandished its weapon, an incredibly huge two-handed axe. Whoosh! Boom! One unlucky cavalry rider was crushed into meat paste and even his horse was cut in half. Despair flashed in everyone's eyes when they saw this scene. It was a monster that no ordinary warrior could hope to defeat. "Don't move away from our formation," Jared shouted as he pulled the reins, instructing his horse to turn around. "My lord, what are you doing?" Ronan was surprised when he saw this. With a grim smile, Jared uttered, "I have to block that thing. You guys go first. I will follow soon." The cavalrymen hesitated, but when they saw his stern face, they immediately squeezed their legs and prompted their horses to move faster. "Be careful, my lord," Ronan muttered before he left with the rest. After they left, Jared eyed the orc general and bellowed, "Come at me." Chapter 124, Jared against the orc general. 5 orc warriors pounced at Jared, swinging their battle axes at him. Facing these orcs, Jared snorted as he waved his sword, blocking and deflecting their axes with incomparable precision. Clang! 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 With a series of quick slashes, the 5 orc warriors fell. He then looked at the orc general who was staring at him with a twisted smile. It was as if the beast didn't care about its comrade's death. Human. Much to Jared's surprise, the orc general suddenly spoke in the common language. Even among the orcs, only a few could speak the common tongue. This means that this particular orc general had a high status. "Are you challenging me, Uluk Ar?" The mocking tone was evident in its voice. It was obvious that it didn't take Jared too seriously. The intimidating aura of the orc general was so heavy. Jared could feel his horse shaking from the immense pressure. It was feeling an instinctive fear toward a predator. Jared didn't respond to the orc general. He just pointed his sword at the monster, which made it reveal a look of fury. With a heavy stomp, the orc general lunged at him while brandishing its massive battle axe. Whoosh! A tearing sound echoed as its axe tore through the air. It even created a powerful shockwave that caused a violent explosion. Bang! Jared managed to evade the axe, but the shockwave made his horse stumble and fall to the ground. Arg! Jared groaned as he hastily picked himself up. He looked at his horse, but he discovered that it had passed out from shock. Left with no choice, Jared could only fight without it. At this moment, more orc warriors rushed at him. Their deep and beastly roars fell into his ears. Clang! Clang! Poochie! Poochie! Clang! Clang! Poochie! Poochie! The orc warriors couldn't even land a blow on him, and they all ended up dying under his hands. "I can still take care of these small fries, but that thing is different," he thought as he glanced at the towering presence of the orc general. The monster seemed to be enjoying the process of hunting him, and this made Jared feel unnerved. He had rarely been afraid in his life, but this time, a feeling of fear washed over him. With an amused smile, the orc general uttered, "Are you afraid?" Its deep, booming voice drifted into his ears. Jared took a deep breath to shake off his fear, and with feigned composure, he replied, "Why would a proud warrior of House Paxley fear a monster? No matter what happens, you will never make me yield." The orc general cackled, seemingly amused by his charade. "Do you think you can hide your fear from me? I can smell it, and you can't hide that appetizing smell from me." Jared felt uncomfortable all over his body when he saw its unusual gaze. Sweat trickled down his face as he observed his surroundings in search of a possible escape route. The others should have escaped by now. I must retreat and regroup with them. While he was thinking how he would escape from the situation, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. He caught sight of a huge axe sweeping in his direction. Whoosh! Jared quickly rolled to the side, the axe narrowly missing his head by a few inches. Without hesitation, he pushed himself up and ran away while applying mana to his legs. "You can't run from me." The orc general's furious roars resonated, but Jared didn't look back. The towering monster chased after him. However, the hateful human was faster and more nimble, and soon, it was no longer in its sight. Roar! Meanwhile, Jared had already retreated quite a distance from the monster, giving him enough time to catch his breath. "It's not worth it to fight that monster. Even if I somehow kill it, the orc warriors will only surround me and I would have no room to escape. Suddenly, he felt the ground shaking, making him alarmed. He looked around and quickly noticed that the orc general had caught up to him. The monster's eyes were blood red, looking incredibly furious that it had allowed its prey to escape. Damn! Jared cursed under his breath. He knew that retreating was useless at this point. If he lured this beast to the town, the other warriors would only be implicated. How could a proud warrior like him drag others down? His pride wouldn't allow such inhuman behavior. So I have to fight it, huh? Then so be it. Having found the determination to fight, Jared regained his composure. He tightly held his sword while keeping an eye on the approaching orc general. Human coward. I will feast on your flesh after I crush your bones. The monster roared as it charged at him. Jared didn't just stand there. He rushed at the monster while carefully observing its movements so the moment it would attack, he would be ready to dodge. In that instant, the orc general swung its battle axe in a downward motion, intending to squash the cowardly human with one ferocious force. Jared had already anticipated this. He made a quick turn, twisting his body to dodge the fatal blow. Bang! Snow and mud splashed in all directions after the beast's axe struck the ground hard. Jared didn't waste this opportunity. He lunged at the monster and stabbed his sword towards its head. However, the orc general suddenly shifted its head, which caused him to miss his intended target. Even so, his sword penetrated deeply into the monster's chest. Foolish human. The orc general snorted and grabbed him like he was a toy before throwing his body into the ground with heavy force. Bang! Jared smashed into the ground, his body embedding deeply like a hammered nail. Arg! Cough! Blood trickled down his lips as he coughed violently. His vision was blurred by his own blood, but he could still see the orc general staring at him with unconcealed contempt. Chapter 125, Heroic Sacrifice. Just when he thought that he would meet his end, a hand pulled him out of the pit. Are you all right, my lord? Jared turned his gaze and realized that it was Ronan, the captain of Alverden's town guards. Why did you come back? He muttered with difficulty. Ronan grinned at him. We can't let you die here, my lord. Go and bring Lord Jared away from here. We will buy you some time, shouted a knight who came with Jared. Hearing this, Jared wanted to say something, but he couldn't utter a word as he spat a mouthful of blood. Cough. Please take care, my lord. Let's drink and feast in the afterlife. The knight shouted his last words while laughing heroically. No. Jared stumbled when he pushed Ronan away. Don't waste their sacrifice, my lord. You must survive. Ronan grabbed him and carried him to his horse. Hiya. Ronan squeezed his legs and urged his horse to leave while holding Jared firmly to prevent the latter from falling off. Jared watched his subordinates attack the orc general. That was the last thing he saw before he lost consciousness. After they left, the orc general released its fury on the humans who took away its prey. Cowardly humans. Die. Whoosh. With one swing of its battle axe, it slashed 2 warriors in half, killing them on the spot. Seeing this, the knight who came to rescue Jared was flustered. He stabbed the monster's body with his spear, but it hardly did much damage. The orc general glared at the knight and grabbed him, lifting him into the air. It then opened its huge mouth and crushed the knight's body with its sharp teeth. Ah! The knight didn't die immediately. He screamed while trying to pull out his body from the monster's mouth, but with another bite, his body was ruthlessly torn apart. Blood splashed all over its mouth, giving it a more cruel image. The orc general casually threw the lower half of the knight's body into its mouth, swallowing everything in one large gulp. Human knights taste the best. The monster grinned as it eyed the remaining warriors who were now trembling with fear. Seeing the cowering humans, it excitedly licked its lips before it shouted to the orc warriors. Kill them all and feast on their flesh. Upon hearing his command, the orc warriors eagerly rushed at the humans. Soon, cries for help echoed as the human warriors were eaten alive by the orcs. Meanwhile, Ronan had already regrouped with the remaining cavalrymen. "Please bring Lord Jared inside the town to be treated," he instructed as he handed the unconscious elite knight to a town guard. "Yes, sir." The town guard took the unconscious warrior and left with haste. "What should we do now?" someone asked Ronan. With Jared incapacitated, Ronan had to lead the group as the next person in command. Feeling everyone's gazes on him, Ronan felt the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He took a deep breath and scanned each warrior's face before he uttered, "We will fight." Hearing his words, everyone tightly gripped their weapons. "Many of our comrades died to protect the town. We will only waste their sacrifice if we retreat now." Seeing their hesitation, he added, "I know that all of you don't want to die, so I won't force you to fight with me. To those who are prepared to die, follow me into battle. Let's kill as many orcs as we can." "Damn! How dare you look down on us? Do you think we will escape?" "I'm not a coward," someone shouted with agitation. "That's right. Who do you think you are? I will follow you and kill 5 orcs before I die." More warriors spoke, expressing their determination to offer their lives for one final struggle. Ronan smiled upon hearing their words. He raised his war hammer and shouted at the top of his lungs, "For Alverden! Kill them all! Kill them all! Kill!" Under Ronan's leadership, the remaining cavalrymen charged at the orc warriors. Their morale was through the roof, and this boost in confidence guided them into launching a fierce counterattack. At this moment, Ronan lifted his war hammer and smashed the head of an orc warrior like watermelon. Splat! Blood and brain juices splattered all over his face and his armor. With him at the forefront, they decimated dozens of orc warriors, leaving a trail of blood and corpses in their wake. However, their ferocious charge soon came to an end when their exhaustion began to take over. One cavalryman after another died after being surrounded by a group of furious orc warriors. The situation quickly turned around with their stamina running low. Even Ronan was now gasping for breath as he forced his way out of the encirclement together with the remaining cavalry riders. "Brothers, let's feast in Aru's kingdom," a middle-aged knight who had an axe deeply embedded into his chest shouted as he rushed forward, giving Ronan and the others enough room to maneuver using his body as a shield. Seeing his selfless sacrifice, Ronan and the remaining warriors felt a wave of sorrow and grief. Ronan applied more mana to his arms, momentarily giving him strength despite his exhaustion. With a wave of his war hammer, multiple heads burst, exploding like hammered pumpkins. More orc warriors blocked his path, forcing him to fight a large number of enemies simultaneously. "I won't die so easily." Ronan's mount had already fallen at some point and his left arm had been cut off. Suddenly, a towering figure came into their view. It was the orc general that defeated the elite knight, Jared Paxley. Ronan smiled bitterly at the sight of this massive beast. "It looks like this will be my end." He mentally prepared himself. However, something unexpected happened in the next moment. A figure appeared in front of the orc general. It was an unfamiliar warrior holding a giant two-handed heavy sword. With a casual swing of his massive weapon, he struck the orc general, leaving a deep wound that opened up its chest. Chapter 126, A More Powerful Monster? The orc general's innards burst out as it staggered awkwardly before its massive body fell to the ground with a heavy bang. Bang! Ronan gasped in disbelief. Who is that person? He actually killed that monster in just one move. The arrogant beast that had killed many of their comrades and severely injured Jared Paxley died just like that. It couldn't even block the two-handed heavy sword. Subsequently, the man who had killed the orc general appeared in front of Ronan. Whoosh! With just one swing of his two-handed heavy sword, all the orc warriors around them were blasted into smithereens, their blood and pieces of their flesh exploded in all directions. Bloody hell! So strong! Ronan's eyes widened at the incomprehensible scene. After killing the orc warriors, the man lowered his sword and turned to look at him. "Are you, Sir Ronan?" Ronan nodded absent-mindedly. "Follow me. Lord Alaric is looking for you, but before that, let's get that wound patched up first." The man stabbed his heavy sword into the ground before he approached Ronan and gave the latter timely first aid to stop his bleeding. It was only when his left shoulder had been patched up that Ronan had regained his clarity. "Who might you be, sir?" he asked while cautiously staring at the middle-aged warrior. "I'm Galliner. I serve Lord Alaric." "So it's Lord Alaric and the warriors of House Silversword." Galliner. Ronan repeated the name in his mind. Galliner was one of the most powerful men he had seen, so he didn't want to forget this name. "Let's go. The others will clean up the scattered orcs." Galliner stood up and grabbed his heavy sword. Hearing this, Ronan nodded. He rose to his feet and glanced at his remaining comrades. Only 27 of them survived and all of them had injuries of varying degrees. "Let's go, everyone. Our reinforcements are here." The others let out a heavy breath upon his words. They had already resigned themselves. Now that there was a chance for them to live, they felt like they had climbed out of the abyss. In the next moment, a cavalry army clad in steel breastplate over their leather armor, charged at the orc warriors. The person leading them was a middle-aged man wielding a double-bladed spear. Under his command, they mercilessly charged in an arrow formation, piercing through the scattered orc warriors without any resistance. It was already dark, but with his vision enhanced by mana, Ronan witnessed how the light cavalry army destroyed the orc warriors like they were nothing. Is this the strength of House Silversword's warriors? Soon afterward, Galliner brought them near the western gate where a few warriors had gathered. These warriors were respectfully standing behind a young man with a pair of swords tied to his waist and a shield strapped on his back. Seeing him, Ronan felt a bit emotional. "My lord, I have brought the survivors. I also found Sir Ronan," Galliner reported as he pointed at Ronan's group. Alaric looked over and saw Ronan whose body was covered in wounds. When he saw that the latter's left arm was gone, he sighed internally. "Thank you for answering our call for reinforcements, my lord." Ronan bowed deeply to him. The warriors who had come with him also expressed their gratitude. Alaric nodded as he carefully tapped Ronan's shoulder. "I'm glad that we came here on time. You should get treated. We will talk later." "Yes, my lord." Someone escorted Ronan's group inside the town where the medical personnel were stationed. Looking at them, Alaric noticed the familiar insignia of House Paxley. So they also sent people to support Alverden. He quickly understood their objective. House Paxley had an awkward reputation in the north because of the incident during the sacred duel. Helping Alverden avert its crisis was a good way to wash away the shameful event that happened at that time. Alaric shook off these thoughts and focused his attention on the battlefield as he asked Galliner. "How is the situation?" "My lord, only one orc general has appeared and there are about 300 orc warriors present. However, I can sense that there are still more of them hidden deep within the forest. Furthermore, there are a lot of powerful auras similar to the orc general I killed. By my estimates, there should be 15 of them." Galliner promptly responded. Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. 15 orc generals and over 1,000 orc warriors. I'm pretty sure there's a stronger orc leading this army. It's definitely that thing. Alaric thought about the monster that led the orc invasion in his past life. It was a walking disaster of a beast, an absolute nightmare that almost destroyed Vale. Since this is a hard mission, I'm certain that it's here. His gaze hardened as he thought of this. Preserve your strength. I'm afraid there is a monster far stronger than the orc generals commanding this orc army. Alaric uttered in a grim voice. His words made everyone frown. The orc generals were already troublesome and only powerful elite knights like Galliner, Warwick, and Fredrin could beat them. Arthur and Henry would have some difficulties fighting one since they had just advanced recently. My lord, what kind of monster are you talking about? Henry asked with an inquisitive look. As an elite knight, he had an inherent advantage in sensing auras, but he couldn't sense the monster that Alaric was talking about. The warriors curiously at Alaric, waiting to hear his answer. Alaric had already prepared his response even before coming here, so he was quick to reply. Normally, orc tribes are usually helmed by an orc general, but there are times when they need to gather, especially when there is a severe lack of resources. During this process of gathering, infighting is pretty common. He explained what he had learned in his past life. The winning orc generals would eat the flesh of their defeated opponents, and this would sometimes trigger an evolution. He paused for a moment before he continued. A powerful monster is thus born, an orc lord. Chapter 127, The Strength of House Silversword's Warriors. An orc lord? I thought it was just a legend. Does that thing really exist? Henry raised his eyebrows in disbelief. Yes, it is real. Alaric nodded solemnly. If he had not seen it in his past life, he wouldn't believe it as well. No way. Henry muttered in shock. Suddenly, Alaric clapped his hand to gather everyone's attention. The warriors turned their gazes at him. Seeing that he had gathered their attention, Alaric spoke in a stern voice. We don't know for sure whether that monster is here, so we need to preserve everyone's strength. He turned his head and said, Sir Warwick's group has already been there for a while, so I need your team to replace them, Sir Fredrin. Hearing his commands, Fredrin nodded. Yes, my lord. Go. Alaric waved his hand indifferently. Fredrin didn't waste any time and gave a signal to his troops to follow him. After he left, Alaric glanced at the remaining elite knights and reminded them. You three should get ready and prepare to replace Sir Fredrin at any time. Yes, my lord. Meanwhile, Fredrin's team replaced Warwick's group, and the former continued to launch a series of fierce attacks on the orc warriors. With their superior tactics, the orc warriors' numbers quickly fell and the corpses of their brethren were buried in the snow. Fredrin thought that the battle would be easy, but a change suddenly occurred on the enemy's side. 4 orc generals appeared wielding massive weapons proportional to their towering sizes. Behind them were hundreds of orc warriors, pouring into the battlefield with loud and sonorous battle cries. Their emergence made Fredrin's face fall. Although he was powerful among the elite knights, he would have some trouble in dealing with 4 orc generals. Fire the signal arrow. Fredrin instructed with an urgent tone. One of his subordinates immediately fired a signal arrow into the sky. The arrow rose into the sky and exploded upon reaching its peak. Don't scatter. Maintain our defensive formation until support arrives. Fredrin shouted to his men as he eyed the incoming wave with a serious look. Yes, sir. The warriors immediately clustered together, forming a tight diamond wall with Fredrin at the vanguard. Brace for impact. Fredrin roared as he raised his shield. Shield. Stab. Fredrin issued instructions in an organized manner, making sure that no orc warrior could penetrate their defensive wall. As more orc warriors charged at them, the pressure intensified. However, Fredrin's team was like a formidable fortress, staunch and strong. A few of his men were injured, but no one died, so they were able to maintain their defensive lines with great resilience. In the next moment, the sounds of galloping horses echoed behind them, signaling the arrival of their support. Fredrin turned his head. He saw Henry and Arthur leading another light cavalry unit to assist them. With their arrival, a fearsome clash ensued. Clang. 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 Bang. 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 Unlike Fredrin's team, the unit jointly led by Henry and Arthur was more focused on offensive maneuvers. In particular, both the newly advanced elite knights displayed the most overwhelming strength. They were like twins of chaos, effortlessly culling the lives of the orc warriors. Seeing that their brethren were getting decimated, the 4 orc generals simultaneously moved. They lunged at Fredrin's group, thinking that they would be easier targets. Fredrin narrowed his eyes when he realized the monster's intentions. He injected mana into his body, strengthening his defensive ability to the maximum. Do you think you can take me down that easily? He snorted as he urged his mount to move forward. He might not be able to defeat 4 orc generals on his own, but he was confident that he could hold them down temporarily. Come at me. He roared tauntingly at the orc generals, looking completely fearless. Suddenly, the fastest orc general arrived before him and swung its weapon, a huge sword that looked like a large slab of steel. Whoosh! To minimize the pressure on his mount, Fredrin didn't block the attack. He tilted his shield to deflect the huge sword. Bang! After missing its target, the sword smashed the ground, creating a deep pit underneath. Meanwhile, the 3 orc generals also attacked him in 3 different directions, not giving him any room to escape. However, Fredrin had already anticipated this. He squeezed his legs and pulled the reins, urging his horse to make a quick turn. Subsequently, he raised his shield to block an attack and used his sword to deflect another. Clang! Bang! Fredrin took a deep breath. He might have blocked their attacks, but the force still made his arms numb. He could also feel his horse shaking from the intense pressure. If it weren't for his mana, his mount might have already been killed. Good job in delaying these monsters, Sir Fredrin. A carefree laugh drifted into his ears. Soon, a figure holding a sword appeared behind an orc general and swiftly swung his sword into its neck. Poochie! A huge head flew with one slice and its headless body fell with a heavy thud, collapsing to the snow-covered ground. Meanwhile, Arthur appeared next to another orc general, casually slitting its throat with a swipe of his sword. The poor beast gasped and staggered as it stared at Arthur with hatred and disbelief. It then fell to its knees, blood gushing out of its neck like a fountain. These 2 are improving quickly, Fredrin thought upon seeing their performance. Soon afterward, they made quick work of the remaining 2 orc generals. Meanwhile, their subordinates had also annihilated the orc warriors. Fredrin inspected his team and noticed that 2 of them were missing. He looked around and soon discovered their corpses buried in the snow. Please guide their souls into your embrace, Aru. He prayed in his heart. On the other hand, the unit commanded by Henry and Arthur lost 4 people. This made the 2 old warriors feel dejected. Suddenly, Fredrin glanced in a certain direction, his eyes widening in trepidation. Something terrible is coming. Chapter 128, Maxed Out Mana. Henry and Arthur also sensed the overpowering aura in the darkness, which chilled their hearts. Is that the monster that my lord was talking about earlier? Henry muttered, looking visibly shaken by the intense aura he felt within the dark forest. That should be it. Arthur nodded with a grim look. At this moment, they heard the sound of galloping horses behind them. When they looked over, they saw Alaric leading the remaining warriors to their position. My lord. Alaric waved his hand while keeping his eyes on the forest. My lord, it's coming. Galliner, who was beside him, uttered with narrowed eyes. Hearing this, Alaric immediately made a hand signal as he shouted. Everyone get ready. The true battle is about to begin. We will be fighting as a group this time. Keep your eyes peeled. As his words fell, everyone felt the ground trembling. In the next moment, more orc warriors emerged from the dark forest, rushing toward them with ferocious expressions. There were also 11 orc generals in their ranks, charging with explosive momentum. The warriors tensed up at the sudden appearance of over 1,000 orc warriors. Seeing that his subordinates were faltering, Alaric took the frontmost position and grabbed the dark diamond shield as he shouted. Do not waver. Behind us are the citizens of Estania. As warriors of the Empire, it is our responsibility to protect them. Everyone regained their sense of clarity as his words drifted into their ears. Warriors of House Silversword, charge with me. Alaric pulled his rare steel sword and urged his horse to move with a kick. Roar! Roar! Kill them! Defend Alverden! The roars of the orcs and the sonorous shouts of the warriors resonated into the air. Clang! 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 A fierce collision followed as the two armies clashed. At the initial clash, the warriors displayed their superior tactical ability, using a turtle-like formation to pierce through the enemy lines. At the very front, Alaric was like a stalwart wall. No orc warriors could break his shield, and the orcs that attacked him died with a slash or stab of his sword. He was indomitable, and his presence fueled the fighting spirit of his warriors. "I'll preserve my mana for the time being. Using it against these orc warriors is too wasteful." With two relics in his hands, he fought without worrying for his safety. The Dark Diamond shield in particular was very sturdy, and even the orc generals couldn't break its defenses. While they were slaughtering the orc warriors, a 2-meter-tall orc with red skin suddenly came into their view. It was holding a pair of bone sickles, looking incredibly hideous and grotesque. With the arrival of this creature, the elite knights behind Alaric felt uneasy. Alaric narrowed his eyes. "You're finally here. Sir Galliner, Sir Warwick. Follow me. We can't let that monster wreak havoc." Alaric knew this monster's abilities. Unlike most orcs who were focused on strength and durability, this creature was fast and agile. It also possessed intelligence that was on par with humans. In his past life, this beast alone had killed almost half of Vale's warriors, including a bunch of knights. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was the incarnation of nightmare and death. Alaric didn't want to see his subordinates die in front of him, so he opted to take care of it as soon as possible. The Orc Lord tilted its head, a mocking grin hanging on its hideous face. "Puny humans." Its contemptuous voice resonated in the air. Whoosh. Its figure blurred and disappeared before reappearing in front of Galliner. It then smiled wickedly as it swung its sickles at him. Galliner snorted and made a quick turn as he lifted his two-handed heavy sword. Clang! A violent clang echoed as their weapons collided. Galliner was able to block its attack, but his face turned pale when he sensed the monster's power. It was more powerful than he had anticipated, and its raw strength even surpassed the orc generals despite its smaller frame. "You are a bit powerful for a human, but you have one weakness." The Orc Lord grinned. Subsequently, its figure blurred and reappeared behind Galliner. "You're too slow." "Not a chance." Alaric came at the right time to block the sickles with the Dark Diamond shield. Clang! Although he powered the relic with his mana, the residual force was still too much to handle, and it made him groan. He was sent flying, but he managed to land stably on the ground. Meanwhile, Warwick launched a sneak attack while the monster was occupied with Alaric and Galliner. He brandished his double-bladed spear, causing strong fluctuations in the air. Whoosh! As if it had eyes on its back, the Orc Lord shifted its body and deflected his attack. Sheeing. "You guys are too slow." The Orc Lord chuckled with an amused expression. "This bastard is more powerful than I had imagined. The three of us might not be enough to defeat it." Alaric furrowed his eyebrows, his expression darkening as he realized the gravity of the situation. "I need to use the stat points I saved up." Without hesitation, Alaric distributed his stat points. He maxed out his mana first, since it was very crucial in effectively using the two relics. After that, he distributed the remaining stat points evenly into different attributes. Alaric's Silversword, Knight, EXP, 500/500, cannot receive more EXP before advancement. Potential, B. Traits, Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS, Close Combat, C. Archery, F. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. Sixth Sense, F. Monster Affinity, F. Strength, 100. Stamina, 50+. Agility, 100. Vitality, 32+. Endurance, 47+. Mana, 100. Battle points, 4440. Stat points, 0. Requirements for the next advancement, 500 EXP, 100 in all attributes, and 5,000 battle points. Now, he had 3 max attributes, but he wasn't in the best situation to celebrate his progress. Alaric could feel the sharp increase in his mana. It was so substantial that even the Orc Lord was surprised when it sensed the fluctuations of mana around him. Chapter 129, Orc Lord's Weakness. What a peculiar human. The monster tilted its head as it looked at Alaric with interest. Your mana. How did you unleash that amount of mana? Alaric didn't say anything and lunged at the creature while injecting mana into his rare steel sword. As his mana began to coalesce within the sword, the archaic patterns on the surface of its blade lit up. The moment he swung his sword, a crescent-shaped blade light shot towards the Orc Lord. Whoosh! Seeing this, the Orc Lord revealed a look of surprise. The blade light was so fast that it almost failed to evade the devastating blow. With a twist of its body, the blade light only made a slight graze in its chest. The monster looked down and stared at the wound on its chest. When the pain registered, its eyes revealed a look of fury. Suddenly, it disappeared from its location. It moved so fast and coupled with the darkness, it became even more difficult to pinpoint its position. Whoosh! In the next second, the monster appeared behind Alaric and slashed its sickles at him, intending to tear him apart. Alaric's instincts kicked in and he turned while lifting the dark diamond shield. Clang! The monster's sickle struck the shield. Alaric's legs wobbled from the impact and his arms were almost crushed. He quickly imbued his limbs with mana, to increase his endurance, but the pain made him grimace. My lord! Galliner and Warwick immediately attacked the Orc Lord upon seeing this. Clang! Clang! Bang! The two elite knights couldn't even touch its shadow as it effortlessly evaded their attacks. Alaric watched the scene with sweat trickling down his face. We need more people here, but Fredrin and the other two are needed there to take care of the Orc generals. Just then, he suddenly heard a familiar voice in the distance. Lord Alaric, we're here to provide support. Alaric turned his head and was pleasantly surprised to see Roland his subordinates joining the fray. Roland was rushing towards them on his horse, while his men had already engaged with the Orc warriors. The Orc Lord was visibly annoyed by the appearance of another human. Furthermore, this human's aura was also powerful, just a little bit weaker than the human with a heavy sword. Did I come right on time, my lord? Roland chuckled as he pulled the reins of his horse in front of Alaric. I didn't expect to see you here, Sir Roland. Alaric smiled back in response. I owe you for that swordsmanship lesson, so I came here to repay the favor, Roland responded before he looked at the Orc Lord. It was the first time he had seen this monster and its aura gave him quite the shock. A disaster-grade monster? Looking at his stunned face, Alaric explained. That's an Orc Lord. As you have seen, it's fast and nimble, so it's very difficult to subdue, but that thing has one fatal weakness. He recalled his conversation with Elf Princess, Ivana, during their travels. According to her, the heart of an Orc Lord was located just right beneath its neck in between its collarbones. Alaric relayed this information to Roland. I see. We just need to hit its heart. The elite knight mumbled while narrowing his eyes. That's easier said than done. Alaric shook his head. So what do you want me to do? Roland asked. Simple. I want you to distract it together with those two. Once it's occupied, I will deal the finishing blow. Alaric replied. Roland sent him an uncertain look. Sensing his doubt, Alaric smiled faintly. Don't worry. I have the means to inflict damage on that beast. He didn't bother to explain. He would just show him what he could do. To be precise, he would show him what it means to have a relic-level sword. All right. Roland chose to trust the young man. He didn't know why, but Alaric had this charisma that would make others willingly trust him. It was a strange feeling. At this moment, the Orc Lord was busy fighting with Warwick and Galliner. Roland took the chance to join them, increasing the pressure on the Orc Lord. Meanwhile, Alaric silently blended into the darkness while retracting his mana, making sure that the beast wouldn't sense his presence. I have to wait for the right moment. I only have one chance. If I fail, then it will be difficult to find another chance since it will be on guard. Alaric thought. Bang! Clang! The battle between the Orc Lord and the elite knights was becoming increasingly violent. Their fierce clash caused massive destruction to the surroundings, and it almost looked like a tornado had struck. The arrogant beast no longer held back. It released its mana, greatly amplifying its physical strength. With its power nearly doubled, Roland and the other two could hardly defend its attacks. If it weren't for their resilient and sturdy body, they would have already collapsed from the repeated beatings. Their armor was like paper, unable to provide them with protection against the sharp sickles of the Orc Lord. So this is the power of a disaster-grade monster. No, I'm sure that this guy is not just an ordinary monster at this level. It must be stronger than other monsters in the same classification. Roland thought with gritted teeth. He had only joined the fight, but he had already sustained more than a dozen cuts and stab wounds. Where is Lord Alaric? If this goes on, not to mention, I bet those two won't survive for long. He glanced at Galliner and Warwick, whose injuries were far worse than his own. What surprised him was the calmness of the man named Galliner. Despite his wounds being the most severe, he stood tall like an unbending pillar. Filthy humans. Your resistance is futile. The Orc Lord relaxed its guard as it stared at the battered faces of the humans. Suddenly, it recalled something important. There is one missing. It was alarmed when it discovered that one of its prey was missing. Just as it turned its head, a sharp, almost invisible blade light shot towards it and crushed into its chest. Paw. Chapter 130, Maximum Battle Points. The monster smashed heavily and was buried deeply into the ground. A large wound could be seen in its chest that exposed the heart that was located just in between its collarbones. The Orc Lord was still processing what had happened when another blade light struck it. This time, it pierced its heart and crushed it thoroughly with tremendous force. Bang! As the Orc Lord gradually lost consciousness, it saw a figure emerging from the darkness, a human wearing an expressionless face. It's you. The Orc Lord soon collapsed after uttering those words. See if it's dead and dig out its beast soul crystal. Alaric shouted as he appeared behind Galliner and the other two. Galliner nodded upon hearing his command and rushed toward the body of the Orc Lord. He then raised his two-handed heavy sword and swung it down. Bang! The Orc Lord's head was cleanly separated from its body. After making sure that it was dead, Galliner dug out its beast soul crystal and handed it to Alaric. My lord, here's the beast soul crystal. Alaric took the red crystal from his hand and quietly inspected it. What a fearsome energy. This is definitely top class among the disaster-grade beast soul crystals. He carefully stowed the crystal. This wasn't the right time to admire it. The battle was far from over. Alaric lifted his head and looked at the battlefield with narrowed eyes. Among the 11 Orc generals, 4 had already been killed, but a large number of Orc warriors were still alive. Let's help them clean up the remaining monsters, Alaric commanded while signaling with his hand. Yes, my lord. Warwick and Galliner immediately rushed to support the warriors, while Roland lagged behind them. Meanwhile, Alaric walked towards the headless corpse of the Orc Lord and frowned. This monster isn't as strong as I had remembered. Is this really the same Orc Lord that killed half of Vale's veteran knights? Alaric turned the corpse over and studied its appearance. Is it weaker because it appeared earlier than it did in my past life? Or are there stronger Orc Lords out there? No one could answer his questions and it made him feel frustrated. While Alaric was ruminating over this, the battle against the Orcs was still raging. In that short span of time, 3 more Orc generals had been killed while hundreds of Orc warriors had been slaughtered. Half an hour later, the last Orc warrior fell lifelessly into the ground. ____. Mission complete. Rewards: Random Trait Upgrade Card X1, 100 Stat Points, 1000 Battle Points, SSS-Rank Trait Card X1. ____. Do you want to use the Random Trait Upgrade card? Yes, no. Do you want to use the SSS-Rank trait card? Yes, no. Alaric clicked, yes, since the battle was already over. Congratulations. Your trait's Sixth Sense, F, has been upgraded to Sixth Sense, E. Congratulations. You have awakened the SSS-Rank mana gathering trait. Alaric quickly inspected his profile. Alaric Silversword, Knight, EXP, 500/500, cannot receive more EXP before advancement. Potential, B. Traits, Horseback Riding, C, Swordsmanship, SSS, Close Combat, C, Archery, F, Hunting, E, Tracking, E, Sixth Sense, E, Monster Affinity, F, Mana Gathering, C. Strength, 100. Stamina, 50+. Agility, 100. Vitality, 32+. Endurance, 47+. Mana, 100. Battle points, 5,000, cannot receive more battle points before advancement. Stat points, 100. Requirements for the next advancement, 500 EXP, 100 in all attributes, and 5,000 battle points. Just then, more prompts appeared before him. ____. Mission, Evacuation. Mission difficulty, Normal. Alverton will face another orc attack in a month. Persuade the residents to relocate to North Pine Town before that happens. Rewards, 100 stat points. Penalty for failure, 1,000 battle points. ____. Seeing this, Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. So there are still more orcs coming, and it's also possible that there is another orc lord. Alaric's expression changed. Things had already deviated from what originally happened in his past life. From what he remembered, there was only one orc lord that attacked Vale, and it had an army of thousands of orc warriors. The next mission had already hinted that an even larger orc army would attack Alverton. Suddenly, he heard someone approaching him. My lord, I'm here to give my report. Warwick saluted with a solemn voice. Hearing his tone, Alaric nodded with a serious look. Go on. I'm listening. 18 of our warriors died in battle, 2 of them are. It was a casualty report, and hearing that they had lost almost 20 men made him feel a sense of sorrow. Those warriors were his loyal subordinates, and losing them made his heart heavy. Gather the corpses of our comrades. They will be buried as heroes of the Empire, and their families will receive compensation to reward their sacrifice. Furthermore, their children will receive educational funding, and they will also be prioritized for knight training. He paused and took a deep breath before he continued. The date of their burial ceremony will be decided upon our return to the estate. Warwick was surprised to hear this. Usually, the nobility would only compensate the families of the fallen warriors. There was no such thing as a burial ceremony for the average warrior. I understand, my lord. I will relay this to the Baron upon our return. Alaric hummed while nodding his head. Do as you see fit. Afterward, the warriors gathered the corpses of their fallen comrades and brought them inside the town. Meanwhile, another group was tasked to dig out the beast soul crystals of the orcs. They had come to an agreement that the spoils would be divided evenly among the participating groups. As for the beast soul crystal of the orc lord, no one dared to demand it from Alaric. Everyone tacitly agreed to give it to him. To speed up the cleanup process, they asked the mayor to send them a group of skilled laborers to help in gathering the corpses of the orcs. Unlike the goblin corpses that had little to no use, the corpses of orcs were more valuable, so they had to be collected. Chapter 131, Alaric's Ambition. The next morning, the first thing Alaric did after waking up was to visit the injured warriors of House Silversword. They were receiving treatment at the biggest clinic in the town, and their treatment fees had even been waived by the mayor to reward them for their efforts in helping the town repel the orc army. After visiting all his subordinates, Alaric went to find Ronan, who was admitted to the same clinic. The man's left arm had been cut off during the battle last night, and this would greatly affect his career as a warrior. It was unknown whether he could keep his position as the commander of the town guards. Alaric felt pity for him. Ronan was a true warrior. Despite the overwhelming odds against them, he never retreated and chose to hold the front lines together with the town guards. This man deserved his respect. "How are you doing, Sir Ronan?" Alaric took a seat on the chair next to Ronan's bed. The knight tried to smile as he replied. "As you can see, sir, I look terrible." Alaric didn't want him to wallow in despair, so he offered some words of encouragement. "Sir Ronan, I'm sure that you can recover from this. You might have lost an arm, but the heart of a warrior remains in you. I believe that Aru has more plans for you, so you should not feel discouraged." Hearing this, Ronan's spirits were lifted. "You're right. This isn't the end of my story." The warrior mumbled and lifted his head to look at Alaric. "Thank you for visiting me, my lord. I appreciate your kind words and I'm grateful that you came to our aid. I can't begin to imagine what could have happened to our town if you hadn't come here." Alaric smiled faintly at his words. "There's no need to thank me. I'm only doing my job as a noble of Estania. After all, it's part of my duty to protect the citizens of the empire," he responded. Alaric stayed for a while to chat with Ronan. He only left an hour later to meet the mayor of the town. At the town mayor's office, Alaric received a warm welcome. He was treated like royalty and it almost overwhelmed him. "My lord, I haven't thanked you enough for helping our town. Please let me know if there is something you need. I will do my best to accommodate your request." The mayor, an old man who looked to be in his 70s. Alaric couldn't sense any mana from him. Which means that the mayor was just an ordinary person. "Actually, I came here to inform you about something important, Mayor." Alaric put on a serious face. Sensing the severity in his tone, the mayor adjusted his posture and listened carefully. Alaric cleared his throat and said, "I sent my subordinates last night to scout the forest and they discovered a large orc settlement a few miles from here. There are thousands of orc warriors in that settlement and it's possible that they will attack Alverden again once they hear the news about their army's defeat." "What?" The mayor was stunned at his words. Alverden barely survived the orc attack with the help of 2 noble households. If another orc army attacked the town, no one might come to their rescue anymore. After helping the town, House Paxley almost lost an elite knight and over half of the warriors they sent died. On the other hand, House Silversword also lost a considerable number of warriors. Not to mention the large number of casualties the town guards had suffered. "My lord, is what you're saying true?" The mayor didn't want to accept this news since it was too much for him to handle. Alaric nodded with a grave look. "Mayor, I think staying here isn't a good idea. The town can't handle another orc attack. How about listening to my suggestion?" The mayor's eyes flashed as he gestured for Alaric to continue. "Please tell me, my lord. I'll consider it after hearing your words." Alaric stared deeply at the mayor and said, "Why don't you relocate the residents of Alverden to North Pine Town?" The mayor was taken aback. He didn't expect to hear this absurd suggestion from him, but upon careful thinking, he realized that it might be the best option for them. If they chose to stay here, they would only end up as food for the orcs. The mayor fell silent as he weighed his options. After about 2 minutes of silence, he glanced at Alaric and asked, "My lord, please pardon my insolence, but can House Silversword handle the expenditure if we choose to follow you to North Pine Town?" He was worried that Alaric might not have thought things prudently before offering this suggestion. "You can rest assured, Mayor. House Silversword has enough funds to help Alverden's residents relocate. I promise that we will help them build their new homes and we will also keep them safe during the relocation." Alaric reassured him. The mayor was still doubtful. He couldn't understand why Alaric was willing to go this far for them. Helping the entire town relocate would require an enormous effort and funding. He believed that no noble household would offer such terms without anything in return. "What do you want in return, my lord?" the mayor asked, his face looking incredibly serious. Alaric was satisfied with this old mayor. He showed his concern for the overall welfare of the residents. He didn't even ask Alaric what would happen to his position once they had relocated to North Pine Town. It was rare to find such a leader, and Alaric felt comfortable talking with such an individual. Alaric smiled while facing the mayor's scrutinizing eyes. I just want to turn North Pine Town into a bigger city, and your situation happened to fit perfectly with my plans. The mayor was visibly shaken by Alaric's grand ambition. Chapter 132, Lucas's rank in the Estanian Dragon Leaderboard. The mayor hesitated. My lord, this is such an important matter. I can't decide without consulting the officials of the town. Can you give us some time to discuss this? I promise to give you an answer tomorrow. Alaric didn't force him. According to the system, he still had a month left until the orc army would launch another attack. All right. Please think about it carefully, Mayor. I hope I'll get a satisfactory response tomorrow. Alaric stood up and left the mayor's office after saying those words. As soon as he left, the mayor let out a deep sigh as he leaned weakly on his seat. Oh, Aru. I don't know what to do. I don't want to leave the town, but I also don't like the townspeople to be in danger. Aru, I beseech you, to please guide your loyal believer in the right direction. At the estate of House Silversword, a royal messenger arrived to deliver a letter to the Baron. At this moment, Lucas was inside his study, sitting quietly as he read the contents of the letter he had received. This is a letter of challenge for my seat in the Estanian Dragon Leaderboard. Lucas was currently ranked 9th in the Estanian Dragon Leaderboard. He had received this ranking almost a decade ago after he had successfully protected the Empire from foreign invaders. He had proven himself on the battlefield, so no one dared to challenge him for a long time, but someone was finally willing to stand before him on the battle platform. Lucas stared at the challenger's name. Roderick Lassiter. It was a familiar name, one that had left quite an impression on him. This man was also a war hero, a warrior who had been through numerous life and death experiences. However, Lucas felt that something was amiss with this challenge. This was because of Roderick's identity. Roderick Lassiter was the maternal grandfather of the second prince. If I don't accept this challenge within 2 months, my rank will automatically be forfeited. And if I accept the challenge, I'm certain that someone from the second prince's side will use the opportunity to speak with me. His Highness might even come to see me himself. Lucas furrowed his eyebrows. His head hurt the more he thought about what might happen. With a deep sigh, he put down the letter and beckoned to the butler. The butler immediately approached him and lowered his head. My lord. Bastian, please call the madam and bring her here, Lucas uttered with a stern voice. I understand. Bastian acknowledged the command with a nod of his head. You may go. Lucas waved his hand, urging the butler to leave. Bastian didn't linger and left right away. Creak. Lucas stood up and paced around the study while rubbing his chin. Now that we have decided to remain neutral, how should I respond to the second prince if he decides to approach me? He pondered for a long time, but he couldn't come up with a proper solution. In the next moment, he heard a series of knocks on his door. Knock. 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 My lord, I have brought the madam. Bastian's voice drifted. Come in, Lucas uttered as he went back to his seat. I can only rely on my wife to help me think of the best answer. The next day, in the small town of Alverden. The mayor visited Alaric's room early in the morning. Looking at the dark circles under the old man's eyes, Alaric could already tell that it must have been a tough decision for him to make. Please take your seat, Mayor. As he took his seat, Alaric pointed at the chair adjacent to him, gesturing at the mayor to sit. Thank you. The mayor nodded. Do you want a cup of coffee or tea? Alaric asked with a faint smile. No, I'm good. I just had tea before coming here, but thank you for the offer, my lord. The old man tactfully rejected while shaking his head. I see. Alaric didn't insist. He then glanced at Galliner, who was standing by his side, and gestured at him to pour him tea. Galliner's arms were covered in bandages, but it didn't stop him from serving Alaric. Without saying a word, he faithfully poured tea for his lord. Meanwhile, Alaric turned his gaze to the mayor, his expression hinting at the old man to speak. The mayor understood the meaning behind his gaze and immediately cleared his throat. "My lord, I have discussed things over with the officials of the town and we have decided to follow you to North Pine Town." Hearing this, Alaric was inwardly relieved. "I'm glad to hear that, Mayor. Again, I will guarantee everyone's safety so you can rest assured." The mayor nodded with a serious look. "I will announce this to the residents of the town, but I can't promise that everyone will be willing to follow us. To some people, Alverden is their home, a place that contained their most cherished memories." Alaric furrowed his eyebrows, but he understood the mayor's words. "Let's try our best to persuade everyone to relocate. I know that this town is where they grew up, but their lives are more important. I'm sure that Aru wouldn't want to see them get destroyed with the town." The mayor took a deep breath. He agreed with Alaric's statement. "I will try my best, my lord." "Good. Do what you need to do. In the meantime, I will send word to North Pine Town and ask them to send us more personnel to help with the relocation. I will also collaborate with the carpenters and laborers to help the residents build their new homes." Alaric placed great importance on this mission not just because of the promised reward from the system, but also because of the huge benefits that would follow once the residents were successfully relocated. "All right. I'll excuse myself first. Just let me know if you have more instructions, my lord." The mayor left after bidding him farewell. Chapter 133, Remembering Ivana. In the next few days, the mayor and the officials announced to the whole town about the relocation and the reason for their decision. Some residents expressed their concerns about the decision to move, but most of them agreed after learning that another orc army would come to attack the town. Even with a few people refusing to leave the town, the mayor and the officials pushed through with the relocation plan. The personnel and the warriors sent by House Silversword had already arrived, ready to escort the residents to North Pine Town. Because this was a large-scale relocation involving a whole town, Alaric had to ask permission from his father. Luckily for him, the Baron agreed with his plans after being persuaded by Maria. On the 8th of February, the residents left Alverden and began their journey toward their new home. At this moment, Alaric was riding his horse, overlooking the entire situation with a stern face. In the next moment, Warwick came to give his daily report. "My lord, we prioritized the old, the injured, and the children according to your arrangements. The carriages dedicated for them have already left and they should arrive at the town by tomorrow or 2 days later depending on the weather." "All right. What about our rations? Do we have enough for all the residents?" Alaric asked while keeping his gaze on the long caravan of people. "Yes, my lord. We also have 10 groups of hunters on standby who will hunt for wild beasts. In addition, we also have a team dedicated to..." Warwick responded to his queries. "Good job, Sir Warwick." Alaric nodded in praise. "I didn't do everything, my lord. Everyone did their jobs perfectly to make things happen." Warwick smiled while shaking his head. Alaric chuckled at his words. "You're right. Please convey my gratitude to everyone. I will relay your words to them, my lord. By the way, how are your wounds?" Alaric glanced at the visible bandages on his neck and arms. Warwick had fought hard with the Orc Lord and he had even sustained some serious injuries. "Thank you for your concern, my lord. Some wounds still hurt, but I feel much better now." Warwick responded, feeling touched by his concern. "That's good. Don't overwork yourself. You can rest if you feel like you need to." Alaric reminded him. "Yes, my lord." Later that evening, everyone stopped to set up their camp. Alaric summoned Galliner to his tent and handed something to him. "My lord, this is..." Galliner was stunned as he looked at the red crystal in his hand. It was the beast soul crystal of the Orc Lord. "I have thought things through and I have decided to reward you with that crystal. Galliner, I know that you will never betray me, so I feel assured to give that to you." Alaric smiled as he looked at the elite knight. This man came out of nowhere after he had activated the Elite Knight card. His background was still a mystery to him even until now. He tried asking Galliner about his origins, but when they talked about these topics, Galliner's voice would be strangely muted as if there was a greater being preventing him from learning the truth. Alaric gave up on asking about his origins since then. Although Galliner's identity was unclear, he had already proven his undying loyalty. Giving him the Orc Lord's Beast Soul Crystal was definitely the best choice. For the first time, Galliner revealed an expression of joy. "Thank you for the reward, my lord." The giant of a man bowed deeply. Alaric waved his hand. "If you want to absorb the crystal's energy, you should ask Henry or Arthur to protect you," he suggested. "I understand, my lord." "All right. You may leave." Galliner saluted before he left the tent. After he left, Alaric leaned on his seat and took out a miniature calendar from his shirt's inner pocket. The calendar showed the month of February and the 14th day was specifically circled with black ink. "There's only a week left before your birthday. I wonder when I will get to see you again, Ivana." During their travels, the elf princess had once told him about her birthday. Alaric had never forgotten about it, and as the date neared, the memories with Ivana surfaced in his mind repeatedly as if reminding him of her. A few days ago, in a city called Riverwake, somewhere in the northeastern corner of the empire, 10 figures dressed in oversized robes entered the city through a discreet entrance. One of them removed his hood, revealing his pointed ears and handsome facial features. "Your Highness, we asked around and we received intel that our targets are now hiding in the slums. Apparently, they are the overlord in that area." The blonde-haired elf reported with a hint of disdain in his voice. The person he was referring to removed her head and revealed her face. She wore an expressionless look on her enchantingly beautiful face. It was Ivana. "So they are here. How many people do they have?" she asked in a cold voice. The handsome elf thought for a moment before he responded. "I haven't scouted their hideout, but according to the information we gathered, they have about 50 people that formed the core of their group. They also have over 100 errand runners, but they are insignificant." Hearing this, Ivana scrunched her eyebrows. She glanced at the rest of the group whose faces were still obscured by their hooded robes. "How confident are you to eliminate them without alerting the public?" One of the robed figures removed his hood. It was a middle-aged elf with a claw mark across his face. His face showed extreme hatred as he replied. "Your Highness, I can assure you that we will remove those filthy humans without disturbing the city. Do you want me to offer their heads to you?" Ivana shook her head. "There's no need. I just want them dead, but before you kill them, find out if they had captured one of our people." "Yes, Your Highness." Chapter 135, Am I Finally Free? Inside the VIP room, the owner, a middle-aged man named Dexter, was chatting with a luxuriously dressed chubby man. "My lord, if Black Dog wins this battle, I can sell him to you at half the market price. You can't find a knight like him in the slave market." Dexter grinned as he talked fawningly at the chubby man. The fat middle-aged man snorted. "You still dare to ask me for money after you failed in capturing that elf?" Hearing this, Dexter forced a smile. "Please quell your anger, Lord Dagzo. I'll give him to you for free." Dagzo's expression eased up. "At least you're sensible. You better not fail me again, Dexter." He gave the underground ring owner a warning look. Dexter's face became deathly pale upon sensing his gaze. Although Baron Dagzo was just an ordinary man, his household had an army of powerful warriors. It was a force that his little faction couldn't afford to offend. "Yes, my lord." Suddenly, a series of knocks on the door disturbed their conversation. "I apologize for the disturbance, my lord. It seems like one of my subordinates hadn't been informed about your presence." Dexter smiled apologetically as he cursed in his mind. "Who the hell is bothering us?" He excused himself and stood up from his seat to open the door. "Don't you know that dash?" The moment he opened the door, a hand grabbed him by the neck and lifted him like he was a toddler. While gasping for breath, Dexter looked down at the robed person, but he couldn't see the other party's appearance. "You must be Dexter." A cold voice filled with malice drifted into his ears, sending shivers down his spine. There must be a misunderstanding, sir. Please let me go." Dexter was a warrior himself, but against this individual, he found himself unable to muster his strength. Damn. This man is an elite knight. Just who did I offend this time? He racked his brain and tried to remember all the people he had clashed with in the past few years, but no one fit this person. Relax. I won't kill you just yet. I still need to ask you some questions. The robed person muttered, his condescending voice was evident in his tone. What's going on out there? Dagzo's voice echoed, giving Dexter some hope. However, a few robed figures suddenly barged inside the room. Hey! Who are you, Goudash? Baron Dagzo couldn't even scream for help and was knocked out unconscious with a single slap to the back of his head. Seeing this, Dexter only had one thought in his mind. I'm dead. Meanwhile, the battle inside the caged ring was slowly coming to an end. Black Dog's body was covered in deep claw marks and bite wounds. However, he stood tall as he eyed the remaining two jackals. His steel sword had already been broken, so he had to fight the two monsters with his bare hands. I'm here. Come at me. He shouted as blood and sweat trickled down his face. The two monsters hesitated and it looked like they had lost their will to fight. Black Dog used the opportunity to lunge at the hesitating creatures. Die. He swung his fists, crushing the jackal's skull with a single punch. Paw. Blood and brain matter splashed into his body, while the jackal's corpse collapsed into the ground with a thud. The last surviving jackal whimpered at the sight of its comrade's death. In a last-ditch attempt, it rushed toward Black Dog with its mouth agape. The jackal bit into his flesh, clinging tightly to his arms. Black Dog gritted his teeth as he hammered the jackal repeatedly with his fist. Paw. 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 Under his heavy blows, the jackal's jaws gradually loosened. Black Dog grabbed its head and freed himself from its razor-like teeth. He then smashed the monster into the ground and ended its life with a punch imbued with mana. Bang! The jackal's head was crushed, killing it instantly. Black Dog fell to his knees as exhaustion slowly took over him. I won. Can I finally be free? These were his last thoughts before his consciousness faded. Thud. While the crowd was loudly cheering for the unexpected results, a robed figure entered the cage and carried him away. Stop him. Quick! Yelled one of the knights working for the underground ring. However, his voice was drowned by the cacophony of shouting from the audience. Black Dog's body felt heavy as he opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw was a dirty ceiling covered in cobwebs. Where am I? He turned his head. His vision was still blurry, so he couldn't clearly see the surroundings. As soon as his vision cleared, he saw several robed individuals standing before a group of men tied in chains. What's going on? He discovered that one of the chained men was Dexter, the owner of the underground fighting ring. One of the robed individuals sensed his stare. Your Highness, the human is awake. He heard one of them whispering to another. Afterward, one of the robed individuals approached him. Black Dog was alarmed and he immediately tried to get up, but he suddenly felt a searing sensation in his chest that made him grimace in pain. Arg! There's no need to be alarmed. We mean you no harm. A pleasant voice drifted into his ears. Black Dog realized that this person was actually a woman. What are you guys doing? Black Dog cautiously asked. He was clueless about what was happening. We are only doing what is right. The woman responded in a cold voice. At this moment, Black Dog heard Dexter's screams. Oh! It's not me. I'm only following someone's orders. It was Dagzo. It was him. He asked me to capture a female elf. I beg you. Please don't kill me, One of the robed men twisted his middle finger, making Dexter scream like a dying pig. Just what is happening here? Black Dog was disconcerted as he watched the scene. Chapter 136, William comes to help, but he is not alone. Back to the present time. Before the sun rose, the residents of Alverton had already cleaned up their stuff to prepare for the trip. It was already the 10th of February and they still hadn't reached Vale. This was mostly due to the snow-covered terrain and the warriors' consideration of the safety of the residents. At this moment, Alaric was about to climb up his horse when he saw Galliner approaching him. When he saw the latter, his eyes lit up. Galliner had been absorbing the energy of the Orc Lord's beast soul crystal, so Alaric hadn't seen him for a while. Now that he had come out, this could only mean that Galliner had already advanced. "My lord, I bring you good news." The giant bowed his head, the thrill in his voice was evident. Alaric smiled and nodded while gesturing for him to speak up. Galliner's lips slightly curved upward as he said, "With the beast soul crystal you gave me, I managed to break through the bottleneck and successfully advanced. I am now a transcendent knight, my lord." "That's great, Galliner." Alaric was ecstatic. Including his father, House Silversword now had 2 transcendent knights. Once this leaked out, it would definitely shake the power structure of the North. Thinking about the possible consequences, Alaric's expression turned serious as he reminded in a stern voice, "Hide your aura and don't let anyone know about your advancement." Hearing this, Galliner nodded without asking for the reason. "Yes, my lord. I will be careful. Oh. By the way." Galliner seemed to have recalled something important. He took out something from his pocket and handed it to Alaric. It was the beast soul crystal of the Orc Lord, but more than 2/5 of its energy had been depleted. There is still over half of its energy left. "I think it will be better to give this to someone close to breaking through," Galliner suggested. He felt that it was too wasteful to use it on his own, so he had come to this decision after his advancement. "All right. I will give this to someone suitable." Alaric nodded. The first person that came to his mind was Fredrin, but the guy was still not ready to advance. The next candidate was Warwick. He was the most loyal subordinate of Lucas, and he had also followed Alaric in his past life after the Baron died. "I'll keep it for now." Later that day, the group finally saw the towering walls of Vale in the distance. The residents were excited since this meant that they were close to their destination. The officials of Vale had already been informed about the mass relocation, so the city guards weren't alarmed after seeing them. Surprisingly, the retired warrior, William, came to help with the evacuation, and he didn't come alone. Following respectfully behind him were 100 warriors armed to the teeth. "Lord Alaric, I'm here to help with the evacuation. I also brought some men to provide support." The retired warrior pointed at the warriors behind him. Alaric furrowed his eyebrows as he looked at those people. "Hold on. Those guys look very familiar." After a few seconds of confusion, he finally realized the identity of the warriors. "Wait. Aren't they Geoffrey's mercenary group? But why are they following you, Sir William?" William chuckled as he nodded, confirming his guess. "That's right. After being involved with Charles, no one dared to hire them anymore for fear of offending you. They ended up working as temporary members of the city guards under my recommendation," he explained. "I see. What about you, Sir William? Do you have any thoughts of returning?" Alaric probed with an inquisitive look. William saw through him right away. He shook his head and uttered, "I haven't thought about it, my lord. I don't want to leave my wife and the orphanage." "Look at you. I'm just asking casually. There's no need to be so serious." Alaric laughed and waved his hand. The old man laughed in amusement. He knew that Alaric was keen on recruiting him. If it weren't for the orphanage and his wife, he might have positively considered Alaric's recruitment. Just then, the old man noticed the giant silently following behind Alaric. William was familiar with this man since he had seen him on multiple occasions at the soap shop. Strange. Why can't I sense his aura now? William felt that something was different about Galliner. It seemed like he had become even more mysterious. I'm curious, my lord. Just what happened in Alverden that requires a mass relocation? I tried asking the officials, but they were tight-lipped. Is this perhaps related to the recent orc attack? William had been curious about this for a while, but no one told him the details. Alaric frowned and nodded. This is indeed related to the orc attack. We discovered that there is a large orc settlement near Alverden, so there is a high chance of another orc invasion. William's eyes flashed upon hearing this. That's concerning, he muttered. Alverden was close to Vale, so it wouldn't be surprising if the orc army would come after them next now that their initial target was gone. If that happened, William couldn't even begin to imagine the consequences. He finally realized why the officials were unusually tight-lipped about the situation. Sensing the change in his mood, Alaric tapped the old man's shoulder. Don't worry, Sir William. I won't sit idly by knowing that there is a hidden danger in our territory. With a cold look in his eyes, he uttered. Once the residents of Alverden have settled down, I will call upon the warriors of the north for a large-scale subjugation against the orc settlement. William didn't expect to hear this, but knowing Alaric's personality, he was certain that the latter would do this. When that time comes, I might join you in battle, my lord. He didn't mind breaking his promise if it meant protecting Vale. Chapter 137, Ivana meets Lucas. Meanwhile, in North Pine Town, a group of robed individuals arrived at the entrance, and because of their strange appearance, the townspeople were wary of them. Is this the place? Muttered the handsome elf, his voice carrying a trace of disappointment. Ivana sent him a glare, making the guy shut his mouth. The others were smart enough not to comment on anything that would displease her. They were aware that their princess was unusually biased toward a certain human. Since this was the hometown of that particular human, she would not allow anyone to ridicule the place as shabby as it might be. Black Dog silently watched the scene. Why am I even here? He had forgotten how they had persuaded him to come with them. He was still not in his right state of mind when he talked with them about it. Now that he was fully aware of the situation, he felt that the whole matter was unbelievable. After traveling with the group for a few days, he had already discovered their identities. It turned out that the people who had helped him were actually elves, and the one leading them was even a princess. It was truly inconceivable. Ivana turned her head and looked over in his direction. Black Dog, the person who can help you lives here. We just need to find him. If it's him, I'm sure he can help you. Ivana wasn't averse to this man because she felt that his fate was pitiful. She only decided to help him since he reminded her of herself before she met Alaric. Help me? Black Dog was dumbfounded. He didn't know what she was talking about, or more precisely, he couldn't remember most of the things that they had talked about. Didn't you say that you want to look for your family? Ivana raised an eyebrow while staring at him. Did I say that? Black Dog scratched his head. Your Highness, I don't think it's possible, to be honest. My family, I don't think they are still alive. What? The handsome elf who was standing close to Ivana was stunned. So you made us travel all the way here for nothing? His voice became increasingly colder as he stared at Black Dog. Ivana was similarly surprised, but she quickly regained her composure. That makes things easier. Why don't you just follow him? She suggested. Black Dog was about to reject her when he saw the handsome elf staring daggers at him. That's a wonderful idea, Your Highness. Good. I'm sure you'll like him. Alaric will never look down on you because of your past. That's just the kind of man he is. Ivana chuckled when she recalled her time with Alaric. When she realized that she had strayed away from her usual character, she immediately corrected herself. Ahem. Anyway, let's go and ask someone. Suddenly, just as they were about to ask one of the townspeople, they saw a group of warriors approaching them. The handsome elf stepped forward and shielded Ivana, but the latter gently pushed him away. "Hello, visitors. We are from House Silversword. The Baron sent us here to invite you to the estate," the leading warrior respectfully said. Hearing this, the elves frowned. Neo approached Ivana and whispered to her ears. "Your Highness, can we trust these people?" Ivana nodded. "Leave this to me." She had heard about Alaric's father, so she wasn't worried about their identity being discovered. Strangely, she was even looking forward to seeing Alaric's parents. With Ivana's decision, the group followed the warriors to the estate. Throughout the whole trip, the elves looked incredibly sharp, as if they were prepared to make a move in case something happened. However, no accidents happened along the way, and the people of House Silversword were very respectful toward them. About half an hour later, they finally arrived at the estate and someone brought Ivana to the Baron's study. The elves insisted on having one of them follow her, so she decided to bring Neo, the most capable of the bunch. "We're here, my lady," the man who seemed to be the butler of the mansion said to her before he knocked on the door. "Knock. Knock. My lord, I have brought the guests. Come in." A dignified and commanding voice drifted into their ears. As soon as they entered the room, Neo's eyes flashed. A transcendent human? He was surprised to see a powerful human in such backwater territory. On the other hand, Lucas was similarly shaken. Even though they had covered themselves, he could tell that they weren't humans. This aura. Elves, and that guy, he is Beast Soul Warrior, a powerful one at that. Lucas composed himself after a moment of surprise. He didn't expect that the suspicious visitors were actually elves. It's a good thing that someone reported them, or things would have gotten out of hand if their identities were revealed to the public. "Please take your seats." The Baron pointed at the vacant seats in front of his desk. "Thank you." Ivana removed her hood as she sat on the chair. "Your Highness." Neo widened his eyes when he saw Ivana taking off her hood. He never thought she would reveal herself just like that. "It's all right, Sir Neo. We can trust the Baron. He is Alaric's father after all." Ivana smiled. Hearing this, Baron Lucas was taken aback. "You know my son?" Ivana chuckled as she looked at the Baron. "It's a long story. I have time. Please tell me what happened." The Baron revealed a look of interest. He wanted to know how his son managed to befriend an elf, and based on how the Beast Soul Warrior was addressing her, he could tell that this female elf had a special identity. "All right. It all started when..." Ivana told her how she had met Alaric. She omitted some details, but he told her the most important parts. "I see. So that's why he disappeared after his trip to Ryvad. I understand now." Lucas smiled. Chapter 138, Aaliyah's Little Squad. "You might have to wait for a few days if you want to see him. He is currently out of the town for..." Lucas told her about the recent situation in Alverton to give her an idea of what Alaric has been up to. "So he's out there helping people again." Ivana chuckled, revealing a rare smile on her beautiful face. Neo was surprised to see this expression on her. Whenever she mentions that human, she feels like a different person. Now, I want to see this human and see what is special about him. Ivana was usually cold and emotionless, but after her return, she learned how to express her emotions differently. Neo didn't know if this was a good thing or not. "I hope that those anti-human high elves won't learn about this." In their kingdom, there was a faction of elves who were strongly prejudiced toward humans. This group wouldn't hesitate to punish someone who had ties with the human race. Even their princess might not be able to escape punishment, since the leader of the faction was a high elf whose status was only beneath that of their king. "If they dare to hurt Her Highness, I won't be lenient regardless of their identity." Neo was determined to protect Ivana. "How about I send some people to bring you to his location?" Lucas suggested with a faint smile. He felt that there was an unusual relationship between her and his son. If Alaric really chooses to pursue this elven woman, it will be tough for him, but who cares? If he can't hold the sky, I will destroy it for him. Lucas might have decided to live in a rural area, but this doesn't mean that he was afraid of trouble. If it really comes down to it, he was ready to bring the entire House Silversword into battle. I don't want to trouble you. Ivana still didn't know what to call him without sounding too distant. Lucas waved his hand with a faint smile on his face. It's just a small matter. There are many warriors on standby, so it won't be an issue. I see. In that case, I will accept your offer. Thank you very much. Ivana no longer hesitated after his insistence. Lucas noticed that she was having trouble with what to call him, so he suggested. Just call me Uncle Lucas. If that's too much, Sir Lucas is fine too. Alright, Sir Lucas. Ivana felt that others might misunderstand if she called him Uncle, so she decided to call him Sir instead. Afterward, Lucas arranged a team of warriors to escort them to Alaric's location. A few kilometers from Vale, right next to a frozen creek. Behind the snow-covered bushes, 5 warriors were laying low as they observed a 2-meter-tall monster feasting on a wild beast carcass. My lord, are we really targeting that monster? A warrior who looked to be in his late teens asked while nervously looking at the huge bear-like monster. What are you scared of? There are 4 of you and it's just a juvenile spiked grizzly bear. I'm sure you guys can take care of it. Alaric nonchalantly responded. 4. But there are 5 of us. The young warrior seemed to have understood his intentions and it made him ashen-faced. My lord, you're not asking us to fight that thing by ourselves, right? Another young warrior muttered, his shoulders visibly shaking. Shut up. Stop embarrassing yourselves. Berated a young woman with a scarred face. It was Aaliyah, the former slave who had been abused by Liam. After the recent practical combat training, she showed outstanding results, so she was promoted as a squad leader. Now, she had 3 warriors under her command. The young warriors immediately shut their mouths. They were afraid of their fierce squad leader. At first, they couldn't accept working with her, so they challenged her to a duel, but all 3 of them got beaten up, and terribly at that. Since then, they no longer dared to go against her orders. Seeing how they were so meek in front of Aaliyah, Alaric grinned and gave her a thumbs up. It's still busy with its meal, so now is the best time to attack. Alaric made a slitting gesture while saying this. The young warriors gulped nervously upon hearing his words. Only Aaliyah looked calm, but in truth, she was also feeling incredibly tense. Although the spiked grizzly bear in front of them was just a juvenile, it was still a dangerous monster close to being classified as fatal grade. Normally, a team of knight apprentices would be needed to take care of a monster at this level. At this moment, Aaliyah was feeling the greatest pressure as the squad leader. This isn't a real mission, but I need to give a good performance so as not to embarrass myself in front of Lord Alaric. She took a deep breath to calm her nerves. We can do this. Aaliyah grabbed the handle of her sword while giving a signal to her squad members. The young warriors nodded with determined faces upon seeing this. In the next moment, Aaliyah rose to her feet and rushed at the monster with her fastest speed. Meanwhile, the 3 young warriors followed her, tightly holding their weapons while cautiously eyeing the spiked grizzly bear. Whoosh! Aaliyah lifted her sword and swung it at the clueless monster. Because the snow had silenced their footsteps, the spiked grizzly bear only sensed them when it heard the whistling sound of Aaliyah's sword. Poochie! Aaliyah's sword cut deeply into the monster's body, but its thick skin managed to prevent her sword from hitting, leaving a fatal wound. Roar! The bear swung its sharp claws in her direction out of instinct, but Aaliyah was already prepared for its counterattack. With a quick roll, she deftly evaded its claws. Over 15 meters away, Alaric watched this with a satisfied smile. She has improved a lot. Chapter 139, It's been a while, my friend. The spiked grizzly bear showed its ferocious nature. Despite the wound on its back, it didn't appear to hinder the beast's movements. Continue attacking it. Once the damage accumulates, its movements will slow down. Aaliyah shouted at her squad members. Under her leadership, they fought with the beast and showed a surprising level of teamwork. Aaliyah's squad members strictly followed her instructions, and this revealed her strong ability to command. They were weak overall, but with Aaliyah's commands, they were able to move like one body. While watching this unfold, Alaric nodded repeatedly while rubbing his chin. Not bad. She is even better than Rasmus at giving commands. She is more precise in her instructions and her approach is also more effective. Alaric commented internally. 5 minutes later, the bear fell on its knees while breathing raggedly. Its body was covered in blood and it looked like it was about to collapse at any moment. Now! Aaliyah shouted as she lunged her body forward while swinging down her sword. Whoosh! Her sword slashed deeply into the bear's chest. Poochie! Her squad members also struck the bear with their weapons, leaving it screaming in pain as it fell to the ground with a thud. Aaliyah didn't make it suffer for long, and with a stab, her sword pierced into its head. Kishchke. The light in the bear's eyes slowly faded. Good job, everyone. Aaliyah smiled proudly as she praised her squad members. She then looked over at Alaric, who was watching them not far away. Clap. 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 Not bad, everyone. You guys did great. Although I intervened a few times, it was mostly because of your efforts that this beast was taken down. I'm satisfied with your performance. Alaric approached them with a smile. During the battle, he secretly threw stones at the spiked grizzly bear when Aaliyah and her squad members were in danger. It was also because of his silent intervention that they were unharmed. Hearing this, Aaliyah furrowed her eyebrows. No wonder the bear appeared weaker than I expected, so it was actually because of Lord Alaric. She sighed while shaking her head. We still have so much to learn. Suddenly, a warrior riding a horse rushed toward Alaric. He then pulled the reins of his horse and jumped down, giving Alaric a snappy salute. My lord, someone is looking for you. The warrior reported. Hearing this, Alaric frowned. He didn't recall having a schedule with someone. All right. Just give me a second. He turned his head to Aaliyah and said. I'll leave the rest to you guys. Once you're done with skinning the beast, bring the meat over to be cooked for the residents. Yes, my lord. Aaliyah nodded. After giving his instructions, Alaric followed the warrior to see which person was looking for him. Your Highness, I think there's something suspicious about this house Silversword. Neo whispered into Ivana's ears, making the latter raise an eyebrow with a perplexed look. They had just arrived at the location of the relocating residents, and he had discovered another transcendent human among the warriors escorting the group. In their kingdom, there were only less than 10 elves at the level of transcendence, so he found it shocking to see 2 humans at this level in just one household. Furthermore, it was from a rural household in the north. Why so? Ivana stared at him with a questioning gaze. Including the Baron that you had spoken with earlier, that old man over there is also at the level of transcendence, Neo responded with a serious face. Following his gaze, she saw an old man wearing a fur coat over his leather armor. He looked like the typical next-door neighborhood old man who was always jolly. Are you saying that friendly old human is at the level of transcendence? Ivana muttered in shock. That's right, Your Highness. Neo nodded while keeping his gaze on the old man. As if sensing their gazes, William turned his head in their direction and gave them a friendly smile. Seeing this, Ivana became even more skeptical. Is that old man really a transcendent human? She couldn't sense any semblance of authority or dignity that was inherent to transcendence in the old man. Suddenly, Ivana caught sight of 2 familiar figures. Without any warning, she walked towards them while calling their names. Sir Arthur. Sir Henry. Your Highness. Neo quickly followed her. Just close by, Henry and Arthur were making rounds when they heard a familiar voice calling them. They turned their heads and saw an individual dressed in an oversized robe. I'm sorry, you are. Henry squinted his eyes while trying to see the face hidden beneath the hood. It's me. Ivana smiled at the old man. When Henry heard this voice, a beautiful face appeared in his mind. Don't tell me you are. He stuttered when he realized the other party's identity. Arthur also seemed to have guessed her identity by the shocked look on his face. Ivana made a shushing gesture as she chuckled. I'm glad to see you again. How are you guys doing? She was excited to see them. We are both doing well, Your Highness. And we're also happy to see you. Henry replied in a whispering voice, afraid to reveal her identity to the others. That's good. By the way, what are you doing here? Henry awkwardly changed the topic when he sensed the sharp gaze of the person behind Ivana. We just happened to pass by during a trip, so I decided to see you, Ivana replied with a random excuse. While they were chatting, Alaric caught sight of them. That's them, my lord. They said that they know you, uttered the warrior as he pointed at the robed figures. Alaric narrowed his eyes as he walked towards Henry and Arthur, who were chatting with two robed individuals. My lord. Henry and Arthur immediately greeted him upon seeing him. Meanwhile, Ivana smiled beneath her hood as she said, It's been a while, my friend. Hearing this voice, Alaric widened his eyes. You are. Chapter 140, Alaric meets Black Dog. Ivana? That's right. It's me, but please understand that I can't show my face. Ivana uttered. Now that he was here, all the things that she wanted to tell him seemed to have disappeared from her mind. What's this feeling? For some reason she couldn't explain, she felt embarrassed to look him in the eye. I understand. Alaric chuckled as he nodded. What brings you here? He asked while gesturing for her to follow him. There were too many people around, so it was inappropriate to talk about certain things. Ivana obediently followed him as she replied in a cold voice. I took care of the people who tried to capture me. Hearing this, Alaric was taken aback. I see. If you don't want to talk about it, we can talk about something else. It's all right. You're already aware of my situation anyway. She shook her head. That's true. Neo observed the male human that her princess was speaking with. He looks young, but his aura is close to that of an elite knight. He is indeed special. His potential is even higher than that man named Lucas. His misunderstanding toward House Silversword deepened after seeing Alaric. He felt that this noble household was hiding a secret. His suspicion stemmed from the fact that they had 2 transcendents and a high number of elite knights. Alaric took Ivana to a quiet corner away from the group. It was then that Galliner quietly appeared behind him, cautiously eyeing the robed individuals. Alaric noticed his vigilance, so he made a hand gesture, signaling for him to relax. Meanwhile, Neo was stunned the moment he saw Galliner. The latter might have tried to hide aura, but Neo was a beast soul warrior who had a special trait that could gauge the strength of someone nearby, and when he used this special ability on Galliner, he found out that he was also a transcendent knight. This guy is the 3rd transcendent knight I encountered in this household. Just how many transcendents do they have? Galliner seemed to have sensed his scrutiny and looked over in his direction, casting the latter a calm glance. Neo furrowed his eyebrows. In that brief moment when their eyes met, he realized that this giant of a human was not an ordinary transcendent. His aura was more powerful than the old man he had met earlier. Furthermore, there was this feeling of suppression similar to the one that Lucas gave off. Neo retracted his gaze. In the slums of Riverwake, a group of men gathered inside a dilapidated apartment. They were engaged in a heated discussion about the recent incident in the underground fighting ring. Boss, what should we do? Now that Dexter is dead, I'm sure the local gangs will try to acquire his properties. One of the men spoke as he looked at the young man seated at the most prominent seat. Everyone turned their gazes at the young man, waiting for his decision. He was only a knight apprentice, but they feared him for his cunning mind. Not to mention that his strength was increasing at a fast rate. In a few more years, he would definitely become a knight. Liam tapped his fingers on the table as he pondered deeply. His mercenary group was still new and they were just starting to expand. If they joined the fight for Dexter's properties, there was a huge possibility that they would be annexed by a larger group. However, the money they could collect from those properties would be enough to completely transform his mercenary group. After over a minute of careful deliberation, Liam adjusted his sitting posture and said while scanning the faces of his subordinates. Now that Dexter's group is in shambles, I'm certain that there will be two groups who will try to take over their properties. The first one is the Axe Gang led by that old man nicknamed Woodcutter, and the second one is the Night Owl mercenary group led by that crazy one-eyed man. When he talked about these two groups, the faces of his subordinates turned serious. They were the next strongest forces after Dexter's group, and they each had an elite knight at the helm. While his men were still processing his words, Liam continued. If we join the fight for those properties, it is guaranteed that we will have to face them, and with our group's current strength, we stand no chance against either of those two. Everyone nodded in agreement. However, suddenly, a cunning light flashed in Liam's eyes. The change in his expression made his subordinates excited because this meant that he had thought of a plan. There is a way to get those properties with minimal losses. Here's what we need to do. So this is the man you saved in Riverwake. Alaric glanced at the dark-skinned man who had removed his hood. Greetings, Lord Alaric. Black Dog bowed his head. Knowing that Alaric was an heir of a noble household, he showed him the utmost respect. Alaric waved his hand with a faint smile. There's no need for formalities. What's your name? Black Dog. Huh? Did you say your name was Black Dog? Alaric thought that he heard it wrong, but Black Dog confirmed it with a nod of his head. Can you still remember the name you had before you became a slave? Alaric heard from Ivana that this man was a slave warrior. Black Dog shook his head as he replied. I was a slave as far as I can remember, and Black Dog was the name given to me by my former lord. I see. Alaric sighed upon hearing this. Let's start by changing your name. Calling you Black Dog is inappropriate. Do you mind if I give you a new name? Alaric suggested. Hearing this, Black Dog was surprised. He had never thought of changing his name, but when the choice was presented to him, he didn't even hesitate. Please give me a new name, my lord.